Welcome to Conversation with Zaki Baruti, with your host, Zaki Baruti. And like always, I want to give a shout out to my biological family. What's happening? To the Universal African Peoples Organization family, what's going on? And to New Life Evangelistic Center family, headed by Reverend Rice. Keep up the great work. And a shout out to our amazing cameraman, Bob. On that note, we'll have another great show because in studio with me is one of my favorite activist attorneys here in the city of St. Louis, and I'm speaking none other than Jerryl Christmas. Welcome to Conversation with Zaki Baruti,
Thank
Jerryl.
you, Zaki.
Okay,
appreciate it.
You know, as I start all of my programs, I usually want and would like for you to just share some background information about Jerryl Christmas, what you want the masses of the people who are looking at this show know about Jerryl Christmas.
Okay, well, I am, I'm originally from Alabama. You know, my parents were run out of the South. That's how we ended up in St. Louis. Okay. My father was one of the first 3 black police officers in Huntsville, Alabama. They had a mandate then they could only arrest African Americans. Of course, he arrested some Caucasians, caused the uproar in the city. And in the middle of the night. In Huntsville.
Okay.
In the middle of the night, we had to move to St. Louis.
Wow.
So we moved to the north side of St. Louis and then ultimately moved out to University City, where I ended up going to school with your children.
Okay.
And then finished school and went to Central Missouri State University, moved to Atlanta, subsequently went to law school at Texas Southern University, Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Came back here, started working in the prosecutor's office, stayed in that office for 7 years, ran for prosecuting attorney twice. Circuit attorney is what they call it in the city of St. Louis.
And in what years did your candidacy?
2000 and 2004.
Okay.
Then shortly after that, I connected with Claire McCaskill, and when she won her Senate race, I went to D.C. with her as legislative counsel. Came back to St. Louis again, and I've been in private practice now this last stint, probably for about a little over 10 years.
What motivated you to become an attorney?
I think, you can program in your children's head early on what you want them to be. I feel like I always thought I wanted to be an attorney, but when I think about it now, my father always wanted me to be an attorney.
Okay.
And I think he put that thought in my head so early on that I adopted it as my thought. And that's how I got engaged. But both my parents, my mother was a counselor, my father was a social worker. Both of them were active in politics. Both of them were active in the community. So I think I just naturally transcended into being an attorney and working in the community and having a feel for the people in the community.
Now, you were also, as I mentioned, an activist attorney, and and I saluted you on and supported your campaign when you ran for prosecuting attorney, because we were trying to seek that position. What's the importance of someone from our community being elected prosecuting attorney, especially in the city as well as in the county?
Well, we, from our inception in this country, from the time that we were enslaved and brought over here in this country, we've always had this unique relationship with the criminal justice system. Policing started as a growth from slave patrols,
right.
Going out and searching for slaves that had ran away, Africans that had ran away from the plantation, and then they would organize to bring them back. And that's what policing developed from. And that's what our whole criminal justice system has developed from. And we are a major supplier, unfortunately, of the criminal justice system. And because of that, it was important to me that we be engaged in that system. And the prosecutor's office, initially, I did not have an interest in going in the prosecutor's office. I interned my first year of law school. That first summer, I interned with Ronnie White, who's now the federal judge, right. and Clyde Cahill. And they suggested that I intern in the prosecutor's office. And at the time, I'd just been living in Atlanta. Elbert Walton, at that time, was running for prosecuting attorney.
1992.
And D. Joyce Hayes was running, several
right.
people. And I had been in Atlanta, and, there were several people in the African American community that were supporting D. Joyce Hayes. And I really couldn't even understand it coming from Atlanta, because I kept thinking this will never happen in Atlanta. You know, you have multiple Caucasians running and one African American, and they don't have full support of the African American community. And I was just thinking in my head, you know, what's wrong with St. Louis? Because it just was so different from the atmosphere that I had been in Atlanta. And I'd end up coming back to St. Louis because...
And at that time in Atlanta, was that
Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young.
Yes.
So, you know, I had been witnessing marriages of that stature and that content and had that kind of confidence and demand and control of the city and of the community. And so I was really impressed by that. And my father had passed from pancreatic cancer my first semester of law school. So that's how I started getting redirected and coming back to St. Louis. Because initially, when I left Atlanta to go to Houston for law school, I had all intentions of going right back to Atlanta. But when my father passed, I started coming back to St. Louis. And when I interned in the prosecutor's office, that's when I really learned that this is the power side of the criminal justice system. It's the prosecutor that makes the decision who's going to be charged, what they're going to be charged with. It's the prosecutor that makes the recommendations. It has the prosecutor that has the ability to intervene and maybe change the situation or change people's lives. And so that's why I understood. And that's why I ended up staying in the prosecutor's office the length of time that I did, because I knew how important that office is to our community and how important it is to have somebody in that office that understands that office and how that office can be used for, one, to deter crime, and two, to better support our community and keep as many people as possible from being in prison that don't need to be in prison, that where we're just not imprisoning people just for the money aspect of it.
So with that, the backdrop, you were very involved with a gathering, a coalition, Community Justice Coalition, in support of Kim Gardner. Why did you choose that approach? But before you answer that, we'll have to take a quick break.
It's so easy to get tired out, burned out, and worn out, and that's why we have to let the rivers of living water flow over us and believe that God is doing a new and great work at this time, standing up to the oppressors that come from every different direction, having God wash us from clean from all the fears, the worries, the uncertainties, the what-ifs, and stand up for justice at this moment. Justice doesn't mean just us. It means letting the rivers of living water flow through us as we get in touch with God. This past week, I've been reading a book on George Washington Carver, a great man who had every excuse in the world just to kind of go through life. But instead, when he saw a problem, he cried out to God and believed Him for a solution. He cried out to God at a young age, said, Lord, show me your universe. And He said, it's too great and too big for you. Well, Lord, show me man, how he's made up. He said, that's too big for you. And then he said, Lord, show me a peanut. Show me how a peanut's made up. And what did He do? God used that man to turn the South upside down as He came up with all these different usages for the peanut. And instead of just growing cotton, they started growing peanuts, and He started showing usage for sweet potatoes and so many other forms of vegetation in life. One man calling out and letting the wisdom of God flow in him and through him. This is the first day of the rest of our lives. So let's give the Lord our life, not our excuses. Let's believe Him, like George Washington Carver did, to do exceedingly abundantly beyond we can even ask or think. This is a glorious day, and He's promised to release His unlimited power in us. He says, ask, it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, it shall be opened unto you. He tells us in John 14:12, behold, I tell you the truth. If you believe in me, Jesus said, you can do the very works I do. Yes, even greater things. I'm going to the Father. Whatever you ask the Father in my name, I will do it. George Washington Carver did that. You and I can do that. We can see the unlimited unlocked in our lives as we stop whining and start becoming winners and let the power of God flow in us and through us.
God loves a cheerful giver. Even though things are really tough right now, you can make a difference in the lives of so many. New Life has been doing this work for 50 years, and we have seen God's gracious goodness through people like you who have participated in this work. There are so many people who are suffering. More people are becoming homeless for the first time with the rising costs of inflation and food and housing and so many other commodities. We need help. You can make a difference today in the lives of so many by giving your tax-deductible gift to P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. Or go to newlifeevangelisticcenter.org or call to get involved in this incredible work.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is attorney Jerryl Christmas, an activist attorney. And on the other side of the break, I was asking, most recently we made history in the city of St. Louis with the election, I believe in 2016, of Kim Gardner for the circuit attorney for the city of St. Louis. And you were involved in that process very much so. Why were you involved?
For the same reasons that I ran, the same reason I was involved in Albert Walden's race, the same reason I was involved in Donnell Smith's race for circuit attorney, and of course my own race, because I knew how important it was for us to have that office. It was important for the black community to have a circuit attorney that understood the community and understood the needs of the community in the position of prosecutor.
Okay, then. As an extension of that, and she returned, we do have, what's your analysis of the current circuit attorney situation?
Well, the current circuit attorney, I don't know that well. And
for our audience, that's Gabe Gore.
Gabe Gore,
who was
right.
appointed by the governor of Missouri upon Kim Gardner resigning. But go ahead.
I never liked the way that entire situation occurred. The thing about being the prosecutor is that a couple of things, Zaki. It's a thankless job. Secondly, you cannot predict human nature. And we've seen through history, if you stay in the prosecutor's office long enough, there's generally something that's going to happen. George Peach, we had the issue with the prostitution. D. Joyce Hayes, you had the issue with her son and, alleged drug sales. Jennifer Joyce, you had a situation with multiple police shootings. Bob McCullough, you had Michael Brown. Then we come to Kim Gardner. And nobody would have anticipated within 6 months of her being elected that the governor would allegedly have someone tied up in the basement and taking pictures of them and using that as a way to blackmail them. And so you cannot predict that, and it happened in her jurisdiction, and she ran on a platform of accountability. I think her tenure as circuit attorney would have been totally different had that not happened so early on, but it happened early on. The governor was a rising star.
Eric Greitens for our audience.
Eric Greitens was a rising star. He had powerful attorneys, Scott Rosenblum, Ed Dowd. I can't think of the other two attorneys off the top of my head, but Kim had already indicated that they came to her and said, if you don't, not those two in particular, but the two lower level ones came to her and said, if you do not drop this case, we're going to destroy you. And they did.
Yeah.
They spent the whole, we saw it happen, and we saw what, powerful people in the city can do. And the state, exactly.
Right.
And if you have those people against you and they highlighting every issue, because nobody's going to be perfect. And Kim was learning, but she was under a tremendous amount of pressure because of that case and her decision to move forward with that case. And I have to respect her decision to move forward because I was a sex crimes prosecutor also. And the thing about sex crimes is that you generally don't have a lot of witnesses in sex crimes. It's usually the victim and the perpetrator. It's not like a robbery that occurred or sometimes events that happen on the street where cameras will pick it up or other people witness. A lot of times you don't have any witnesses, but the actually two individuals. And I know quite often in sex crime cases, I couldn't make my decision until after I talked to the victim. And you would be moved by what the victim told you, and you would have a better belief, a stronger belief in the case. Now, I never talked to the victim in that case, Kim did talk to the victim in that case, and she decided, to move forward with the case. But as a result of her moving forward, she really had to pay the price, and they really came down on her, and they have not stopped. That's the thing about it. Even, today, they use Kim Gardner. A lot of people that are running for positions in the Republican Party, they use Kim Gardner as a way to enhance their profile. Just like they talk about illegal immigrants. They talk about her as a way to boost their credibility in their electorate. So they have not stopped using her as a floor mat.
Right. So do you also think that by them gaining up on her is a message to that was been sent to possible future progressive prosecutors that if you go against the grain, you'll catch a lot of hell as Kim?
Hell yes.
Okay.
That's what, every time we come under attack, I'm talking about we, meaning us as black people, it's always a message to the rest of the population that you should not engage.
Right.
But that's all the reason why you should engage.
Absolutely.
This has always been, that's what lynching was about. The reason why they were lynching Africans and hanging them from trees is to send the message to everybody else: don't run, don't disobey. That's why it was illegal to teach us how to read. That's why punishment would be death if you found out that you were teaching an African how to read. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And in fact, we're coming up on the anniversary of the murder of Mike Brown Jr. And with them allowing his body to lay in the hot sun for hours, would you not say that's another subliminal message? But before you do that, we got to take another quick break.
Zaki Baruti has been such an inspiration to so many people for so many years. He's been an advocate for the poor, the downtrodden, and Conversations with Zaki Baruti is continuing on right here on the NLEC TV app. Now that's why it's so very important you tell everyone you know that Zaki Baruti is right here on the NLEC TV app, and tell them how to get it. Yes, let them know how they can go to the Google App Store, the App Store there on their phone or mobile device, and how they can bring it up. And not only do they have an opportunity to enjoy and be inspired and learn from the conversation with Zaki Baruti, but they're going to get insights on the homeless and hurting throughout our community, and here's help programs that are there. There's inspirational programming, and not only is it on NLEC TV, but there's the great classic movies and inspirational creation videos that are there, and even a 24-hour radio show that's on the Here's Help Radio Network. That and much more right there waiting, and it's all free of charge on the NLEC TV app. So do yourself a favor by sharing the good news with your family, your friends, and most of all, they can discover that there's hope. Yes, hope through the love of God manifested through the resurrection of Christ, all waiting right there on the NLEC TV app. Now, if we can be further help to you, call us at 314-421-3020 here at the New Life Evangelistic Center, or go to nlecstl.org. We're here to help you, and now we're asking you to help others to discover the NLEC TV app.
2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is Attorney General.
Attorney General, you ain't give me another time. All right, I'm ready. Take over the stage.
Yeah, we need you there. That's the top prosecutor for the state of Missouri, Attorney General, just for all my audience. But on the other side, I was making mention of how Mike Brown, this is the 10th year anniversary of his murder, that they allowed his body to lay where it was, where he had been fatally shot for a number of hours, over 3, 4, 5 hours.
In the heat.
In the heat, in the August heat.
And if you know anything about, if you've ever worked around dealing with deceased people and the heat. That's the worst thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Is leave a body out there like that. And they were definitely trying to send a message. It was inhumane.
Right.
It was inhumane, and the fact that we have been bombarded with such inhumane treatment here in this city, especially because St. Louis is a rough city. And you don't realize how rough and how inhumane the treatment is of black people until you move away. That's why I recommend everybody needs to move away from here at least once, because it allows you to grow in ways that you would never grow. I didn't realize it until I moved to Atlanta. But once you get to Atlanta, you get to Houston, you get to Dallas, you get to Charlotte, you get to Phoenix, you find out that there are issues all over the country.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say.
Issues all over the country, but you find that it's easier sometimes to navigate in these cities better, and you find more people with more open minds who are more ambitious and more willing to challenge the system.
Okay, then. Well, I guess my only comment on that is that show me where we gained some freedom in any of those cities across America. But anyway, changing subjects real quick. Just most recently, you lost a loved one.
I did.
And some circumstance, of course, that should not occur. You want to share, and what are your expectations out of your loved one that passed away through violence? Go ahead.
At the beginning of June, I lost, I only had one brother, so I lost my brother at the beginning of June after an altercation where he was killed at the Phillips 66 gas station on the corner of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Kings Highway. And those stores in our community, these gas stations in our stores, especially the Arab-owned gas stations, have a history of additional amount of crime in our community. And then also we know, unfortunately, from the indictments that came down year before last and the number of aldermen that had to be in prison, why these institutions, these businesses are so diluted in our community, you know, because we have just entirely too many of them in our community, and they're a problem. And I want to address that. For example, we have that Phillips 66 on the corner of Dr. King and Kings Highway. If you go down less than a mile, right across Page, if you're heading north, then you have another one right there on Kings Highway in between Page and Delmore. And if you go down to Delmore, then you have another one right there on the corner of Delmore and Kings Highway. So that's 3 gas stations within a 2-mile radius. And you don't need to have those gas stations in your community that way. That is one, that increases traffic in your community, having those gas stations. If you go in other communities around the metropolitan area, or if you travel around the country, you will not see those gas stations in residential areas the same way that you see them in our community.
So why are we seeing them in our community then, if that's not good for our community?
Because these individuals have a way of influencing our elected officials to allow for this to be in our community. And it becomes a health hazard because it increases your risk of having respiratory issues. It increases your risk of having cancer issues. Along with that, it devalues your property value. Your property value goes down when you have all of those gas stations centered around your community. Clearly, it brings your property value down. And we do not need that. And they've had a number of incidents at the gas station at Dr. King and Kings Highway. And I just had to take some time, one, because grieving is a process. And it's a process that you have to go through. You know, there's no way around it. You just have to go through the process. And so I wanted to take some time to go through the process to build my strength back up. Because when you lose somebody like that, when they snatched away from you, suddenly like that, it's a shock to your system.
So there's clarity. So your brother was actually shot and killed in that incident, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we got to take a quick break, and our last break.
does it mean to you the help you're getting, that New Life's giving you to help you get off the streets?
What it means for me, it means that it gives me the ability to experience a better quality of life, first of all.
New Life actually just, for me, saved my life, and that's just me being completely honest. So for me, it's not just a name of being New Life, it is actually giving new life because I'm safe. I have a roof over my head, I have people that I'm talking to, I'm growing, I'm listening to the word more, and I'm connecting, and I love it.
There is hope, so hold on, there is hope. God has sent me here to tell you there is hope. And He knows just what you're going through and what the future holds. As long as Jesus lives, there is hope.
Your prayers and gifts are absolutely critical at this time. It's P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166. Or go online at nlecstl.org.
Everybody, please donate. Please continue to help New Life because without New Life, a lot more people would not be here.
When you partner with New Life Evangelistic Center, you impact so many people. And we're seeing the number of people who are experiencing homelessness rise. You can make a difference today by giving your gift online at newlifeevangelisticcenter.org. newlifeevangelisticcenter.org. Make a real big change in the lives of so many.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me for a couple more minutes is activist attorney Jerryl Christmas. So we only got a couple more minutes. Mm-hmm. So given all of the problems that you see that is occurring with these overabundance of service stations in our community, what are you recommending to our community and what would be the way forward?
Well, one, they don't need to be selling alcohol because we have alcohol sales coming out of these gas stations. We have alleged drug sales. We talked about the Michael Brown case. You think about it. 10 years ago, his whole situation erupted from his interaction at a Arab-owned store there in Ferguson. They're the ones that called the police. That's where the alleged marijuana transaction took place at the store with them, which led to Michael Brown's death. So this is not brand new to us. This is at least 10 years old because we know it stemmed from that. So with the activity that we're having at these stations, I want the station shut down. We don't need these stations in our community. We have to find alternate uses for these pieces of property. But there's no way you're going to tell me that we need 3 gas stations on Kings Highway in our community within a 2-mile radius. And then we have also black-owned gas stations that we are not patronizing. And, I drive on fumes before I will patronize one of those stations as opposed to one in our community that is black-owned, or that we need to look at new ownership of these gas stations. We need to have better control of the businesses in our community.
And you had made mention real quick, we only got a minute left now, these stations are there through the alder persons or the political folks.
Through the political people.
Have you made any approaches to the political people?
I am. That's what I'll be doing. That's what I'm going to be doing.
So you're getting ready to start a crusade.
I'm going to start a crusade.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Real quick, we only got a few seconds. The time running. I got to have you back on, but it's an important election for a congressional, first congressional district.
We have got to get Cory Bush back in office. I'm so disappointed in Wesley Bell.
I must say he's a bootlicker.
And he's an opportunist.
Okay.
And he's used Michael Brown as an opportunity to get to the Ferguson City Council, to get to the St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office, and now he want to ride his casket to D.C.
Hey,
we can't let that happen.
We can't. So on that note, I truly appreciate you being in the studio with me. Got to have you back, okay? To my audience, like always, know the issues before you go to vote, but most definitely vote. Also join an organization that speaks truth to power and have a history. We say join the Universal African People's Organization. On that note, may God bless you, and again, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.